Hi, it's Charisma from Charisma's Corner again, and I have finished the stitching on my little wool penny project that I've been working on from the beginning of this. I'm gonna work on another one, so don't worry, the stitches haven't stopped. But I just wanted to kind of go through how I square it up and get it ready to add borders and quilting and get it quilted and everything for you, so that those of you who are working ahead or working on a smaller piece or whatever have an idea of how to get this started to finish your project. So I have all my wool pennies stitched and I gave it a good pressing. As you know from the beginning of this, we made a graph and with friction pen, and sometimes with that you kind of have to go in with your iron. You can still see I have a few little lines here that you can take in with your little bitty iron that you use for applique, or just kind of get in there really good. But I wanted to get this started for you. So what I kind of do is I just lay it on my cutting mat, and you can line up some lines, but what I want to first do is measure how much space I have from this end and this end, because I don't want to have, you know, 2 inches over here and an inch over here, because it'll look lopsided. So you can see here that these don't match up. So I kind of want to go through and see, I have 2 inches here and I have about 2 3/4 inches here. So I want to even that out. For me, I don't care so much about the top and the bottom. I will even those out, but I really want it to be centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of going to go in here and see, I have about 3 inches on the top here from the top of this wool penny to the end of my piece here, and you can see it's all, you know, kind of crooked. Well, I'm just going to go in here and straighten a line. So I'll go and take about 1/2 inch off. I don't really care what the end size is going to be in this particular case. Sometimes if I want to do a specific quilting design, or I want to quilt in something, you know, very specific, then I might care about the size. But in this particular case, I don't care about the size. So I just want to go in here and straighten this out. And for me, my eye kind of likes to have the bottom area be a little bit longer than the top for some reason. I don't know why, but I do that. And it just kind of gives me an opportunity to think about that. So now I'm going to go in and straighten this, and I'm just lining it up right on the line of my mat. I know that typically we don't use our mat to measure anything, but again, I'm just squaring something up. So now that I have this was my short side. This side had a little bit longer. Now I'm going to go in and measure to see how much I have. So I have about 1.5 inches from the end of this penny to the end of my fabric. So I just want to do the same thing here. So if you have to mark that, then feel free to do that. I feel comfortable just go ahead and cutting this without having to mark it. Okay. And if you have to do it in little bits and pieces to make sure that you know, take more than one cut if you need to take more than one cut. So now that I have it squared up, the other thing that you want to decide is how many borders, what kind of borders, and audition fabric. So I kind of narrowed it down to 2 in my stash. I sort of like the kind of polka dot circular looks, and I rated my Cafe stash, and all you need to do to audition them is just kind of lay it on there, see which feel that you like. This is very bright and sunny, and then I have one that is sort of muted and has a lot of different colors too. And this is the one that I've chosen, I think. I just really like that. So just raid your stash, see what you have, and I'll add my borders and get you started on how to quilt and sort of my ideas for that. So we'll be back shortly. Hi, Hi, so I'm back and I have my borders added onto my piece, as you can see, and I just put my regular cave border on. I sort of like the not having to have a little inner border. It keeps it kind of modern looking, but also this was a pretty big wool penny project and I don't want it to get too big because I'm hanging it on the wall and we have a visitor. Anyway, so now I'm ready to put this on the quilt machine. I happen to be a long arm quilter, and so this is going to be very simple for me, but I thought I would go through on how I mark the quilt so that you can kind of see the process. I don't do this with every quilt, but I am doing this to show you just some strategies for quilting this quilt. So I thought to make this kind of fun, I just have a reference mark here. I'm not actually going to quilt this blue line, but I wanted to mark some different circles. I've made several of these wool penny projects and I quilt them all differently. I tend to use pebbles to fill it in just because it kind of makes all of these pennies pop off the page. But I just took some items like the lid off my vitamins, my chapstick, different things, and I just want to make some kind of bubbles that go off, and so when I quilt this, there's going to be pebbles all the way around this, and it's kind of going to make this circle pop off the fabric here, and then I'll just go in with some other design. But I just kind of wanted to show you my fabulous way of just kind of marking these and making it fun. So here's my little chapstick. They're like really technical, you know, expensive tools. And I also think that while I'm quilting, I'll probably just quilt a flower somewhere out here too, because there's lots of flowers in my piece. I don't typically need to mark that when I'm quilting, but I'll do that for you now so that you can just kind of see what I'm talking about. So I'll go in here and I can actually quilt better than I can draw right now, but just for time's sake, this is what is going to be my reference point for that. So then I'll just kind of add some swirls and some different things in here to bring this all together. And maybe like a circle in a circle, just to kind of make it fun. It gives the piece some interest, something to kind of look at when in the quilting. I really love to do that in my quilting, as most of you know. And I'll probably maybe even do like my signature or something else. So anyways, that is just how I go about marking a quilt to quilt for the wool pennies. I'll show you what this looks like after it gets quilted and it'll be ready for binding. I hope this is helpful to you all that are following along, and I hope you have a great day. Contact me on charismascorner.com or Charisma Horton at Facebook. Thanks a lot. Bye. Okay, so here we are at my quilting machine, and I wanted to let you know that the blue marking pen that I was talking about earlier is just one that I get from Walmart, and you just write on your fabric and then you spritz it with a spray bottle, so I'll show you that. But I'm at the end of my quilt and I just wanted to quilt a little bit to kind of show you what I do, and my machine might be kind of loud on the recording, but just wanted to. Okay. So I'm pebbling and then I get to my blue mark. I just kind of do that. I'm going to fill that in with something else just to give it some design element. Making little circles. They don't have to be perfect to fill in the area and make it kind of pop off the fabric. So now all I do is take my spray bottle with water and I just spritz all of the blue lines and they disappear. So this has to dry. on this particular piece, I used one layer of soft and toasty batting. Usually on my wall hangings and any sort of heavy quilting, I actually use 2 layers of batting. I like to do a flat one like the Fairfield soft and toasty that's on this, and then a layer of poly or wool. But today I just did one. I kind of wanted to see what it would look like because the other ones I hadn't. So anyway, I will take this off the frame, square it up, and then we'll come back to you in just a few moments. Okay, so now we're at the end of the project. We have it quilted here. You can see where it's still wet from when I spritzed it in the last segment, but I wanted to show you how to square it up. So this, I know what the measurements are, but what happens sometimes in quilting, especially when you are doing really heavy, dense sort of quilting, some of the borders and fabrics can kind of, you know, get a little wavy. I don't want to say wavy, but they're just imperfect. So the best way to do that is to square it up. And the way that you do that is you take the center piece here, and I'm gonna just judge everything by that line. I happen to know that I cut this border 3.5 inches, which means I lose a 1/4 of an inch when I sew it. So that means I have a 1/4 of an inch that I can easily cut off and square this piece up. So I'm just going to line my 3-inch line on the seam where I sewed this border on, and I'm going to trim away any extra. So this is, and as you can see, it's not exactly a 1/4 of an inch that I'm trimming off, because the nature of quilting, sometimes that happens. But I want to make sure that the end piece is perfectly square when I'm finished. So again, I'm just going to line this, it's 3 inches over. I'm just lining it up right on the seam, and I get to do that all the way for here. So you see, now it's going to be perfectly square, or rectangle, but you know what I mean, perfectly square as in the end product. Because when you hang it on the wall, you don't want it to be crooked anywhere. You want it to be very square so that it doesn't look like it was wobbly, and you can line it up. So then after I trim this, it's ready for binding and a label. And I love to put labels on, whether it's a quote or just a special message to somebody or something, but I believe in quilt labels because you just never know what is going to happen later on. So here we are, perfectly square wool pennies. If you have any questions, just let me know, and you know where to contact me, charismascorner.com or Charisma Horton on Facebook. Thanks a lot.